Good morning, state of Alaska, and everyone out there in the wild interwebs world watching. This is The Den. I am Lee Butterfield, and we are coming to you from the bowels of South Anchorage High School in the coldest spot that I can find this morning. And we got all kinds of fantastic news for you. You ready for this today, Griffin?
I'm ready. I guess it's already Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
Yeah.
The date is what, Griffin?
The 29th already.
The
Jeez,
29th, which is pretty exciting. That means we're almost to the end of September, which is pretty awesome considering that a lot of us might not see it. It's kind of a sad deal, but we got some bad news today. Are you ready for the bad news?
I guess
Alaska's
so.
now second in the country for COVID death rates. So, hey, we got to keep this thing figured out. This thing's not over yet, and now we're kind of leading in an area we didn't necessarily want to lead. Yeah, but I mean, competitions are competitions, and there are better competitions going on in the state of Alaska right now. What's the competition we're
Fat
excited
Bear
about?
Week.
It is Fat Bear Week, ladies and gentlemen, and I have officially entered the competition. So make sure you get out there and vote. Vote Lee Butterfield, Fat Bear of the Year. Where can they vote?
Explore.org. They have a little camera. You can watch all the bears.
You can watch all that. You cannot. I am not on that. I am not on that. That's not. Go vote for your Fat Bear favorites at explore.org. And that's really the big kind of opening news that we have for the state of Alaska. We're going to kick it over and get some information from the big man, the commish for the education for the state of Alaska. So we're just roll that over to that Zoom. Ready? 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 And boom! There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Butterfield. How are you doing today, Mr. Johnson? You're a special guest, as usual.
I'm great, Seth. It's my first time on the show this year, and it's great to see everybody. I missed you all.
Yeah, I mean, we missed you too. I mean, it's a new year, new show. And yeah, do you want to get started with some questions?
Let's go for it.
All right. So following the news about Alaska being number 2 in the nation for death rates, parents and students, still want to run the schools with without masks. My question for you is are we developing any strategies at the state level? And are you guys thinking about dealing with this type of complacency, or are you seeing anything at all?
Yeah, good question. And thank you. So I guess I would start by saying, for me, I'll be very careful about calling it complacency. I think in the time we're at, it's good for us to all show lots of grace. And before we decide it's complacency, maybe ask why somebody's not wearing a mask. There might be a lot of reasons. The second thing I would say is, in my experience, and I've been in several communities around the state in the last few months, most people are wearing masks where it's appropriate when they're inside and that sort of thing. And so I have been very grateful for the folks I've seen that have been trying to mitigate the virus and stay positive, work together, seen some communities really find consensus. And I'll just say, in terms of a state strategy, if I was developing a state strategy, my strategy would be to tell everybody to just watch our students, because you all have been fantastic. When I go in schools around the state, students have a positive attitude, they're wearing masks, they're doing other things. And so I think a great strategy would be for the adults in the state to live up to the standards that we ask of you, and to follow your good example with both attitude and loving your neighbor.
Yeah, I mean, I find the masks not too difficult. I'll wear them. I mean, it is what it is in my opinion, and I'm just trying to do my part to help out, the state and everything. Anyways, moving on to a more fun question. What is your favorite song right now?
My favorite song right now.
Or one that you're listening to a lot?
Oh man, that's a hard question. So I'll give you two answers because one will seem like a cop-out, but I listen to a lot of soundtracks, so I don't know the name of the songs, but I really like to listen to movie soundtracks when I'm reading or whatever. And so the last movie soundtrack I listened to, I think, was The Hobbit, An Unexpected Adventure. So that's probably the music I've listened to most recently. With my kids, they would be so embarrassed if they knew I was singing this out loud. But recently, I introduced them to the Vinga Bus song, which I just love. It's an old song. Maybe you don't know it. I'm sure Mr. Butterfield knows it. But that's a song I introduced them to lately.
Huh. That's really interesting. I like the soundtrack idea. When I'm doing my own homework, I like to put on like, chill vibes or even Minecraft music. It's like really dumb, but I like the sounds of it because it's like really calming.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, this is the last question right here. Finally, at the state level, how have things changed this year and how have you been affected by it?
Yeah. That's another good question. Well, I would start by saying, how I'm affected by it is super disappointed. I don't think any of us expected us to be where we are right now with COVID. We thought we were on the downhill slide and that we would gradually get past it and be over it. And here we are in a really tough situation with COVID in our state again, like you said. Many cases and the death rate is still high. And so it's disappointing for all of us. And like you said, I wear a mask. It doesn't, I don't mind wearing a mask, but I don't think anybody gets up in the morning and looks forward to wearing a mask all day. It's depressing. It's discouraging to have to wear a mask all day. And I appreciate everybody's positive attitude, but it's just disappointing to be where we are with COVID, but it's a pandemic. It's a new virus. This is probably not unexpected for a pandemic with a new virus. And so that's the disappointing part. On the positive side though, Seth, like I said, I've been back in August before things got really hot in the beginning of September. I was in several communities around the state, and even in districts close to each other out in rural Alaska that have kind of different mitigation strategies. But what I found in visiting communities is that those communities had found a place of consensus and how to mitigate the virus. Kids were going to school and things were going well. It wasn't a constant controversy like it is in just a few of the communities. And so that was really encouraging to see that in a lot of places in Alaska, folks have come together, they're working together. And I'll say just a huge thank you to all the educators and administrators in our state, because by and large, all the schools are open. Like even with our increasing case rates, folks have figured it out. You all are in school and having the opportunity to be in school. And that took a lot of work. It's taking a lot of work. And so I just say that with a huge amount of thanks for the people that have made that happen.
Yeah, well, that's all we have for today. That's all the questions I have. Thank you so much for coming in and answering the questions. Yeah, I'll toss it back over to Mr. Butterfield and Griffin.
So I guess this week in what could be considered statewide sports, we're going to go over some of the Seattle teams. First off, the Seattle Sounders soccer team lost their game last week, so they're now 14-6-5. And then the Seahawks also lost their game Seahawks, lost their game last week to the Vikings, so now they're only 1-2. But luckily, the Seattle Mariners, the baseball team, really doing good this year, beat the A's 14-3 last week and are now 87-7. And the new Seattle Kraken hockey team played their first season game this week in Spokane, and I heard they might even come up here for a few games in the future.
Griffin, how did that Spokane game go with the Krakens? You don't know if they were like released and came up and like crushed the Sailors and rocked it all around? Well, we're going to get a little more about that when we get back. And I know it's really annoying having me sit over here, but I do got to say, are you telling me that the Seattle Sounders soccer team was slipping on the sod?
Probably.
Go ahead and say that to me.
Seattle Sounders soccer team was slipping on the side.
This is great. We've learned a lot here. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll never have to deal with me again. The only reason I'm here is because Kate, unfortunately, had this weird obsession that the Empire State Building was made out of the radish crystals that the Dozers put together. So right now is currently free climbing that structure dressed as a Fraggle. Thank you for joining us for the AK Den. And please, if you have questions for us or for the commissioner or for Tom Claymire, go ahead and send those questions to, what is it? Is it asktheden.org? AskTheDen.org. And always, you can throw your questions in the chat, and we'll get to that too. Thanks for joining us. You're all Wolverines here, and you know what that means, don't you?
Yep.
Keep your claws sharp, Wolverines.